What is good, everyone? This is Data Boy TCG back with another YouTube video. Now, I don't usually make any videos on a Thursday, but I did want to point to what we see here on the screen, Ascended Heroes Elite Trainer boxes. I do want to speak more on the Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer boxes, but let's start off with the Ascended Heroes Elite Trainer box here. Now, we're seeing some movements upwards in terms of pricing. We've hit kind of a low point of around $100 here. And now you see steadily working back towards almost $120. Let's see kind of last sales. There's some selling at $130. Most of them are close to $120 though. And look at the volumes here. 588, 427. When we saw kind of a dip, 339 items sold, 381 of these ETBs sold, and 467 of those sold. And the volume, just the sell-through rate in general is, it points to the demand that we're facing with this specialty set. It's got amazing cards, got god packs that are seemingly easier to pull than, say, compared to Prismatic Evolution's god packs. And that's a big hit for, I think, the rip and ship world as well, on Whatnot, YouTube, whatever. Yeah, let me move on to the Ascended Heroes Pokemon Center Elite Trainer box here. Let's see the price. Look at that chart. Now, I mentioned in my last video that I got 10 of these Pokemon Center Elite Trainer boxes at an average cost basis of around $260, and kind of showed my reasoning for that as well. I'll link it in the top right of this video if you wanted to take a look. I think it's important to look because it talks about when PC ETBs reach their low points, and we figured out in another video that I'm going to bring up the charts again that I used in that video, but in that video we discussed that the first couple of weeks after the release of a Pokemon Center Elite Trainer box is when the low point for that Pokemon Center Elite Trainer box was reached, at least for Destined Rivals and Prismatic Evolutions. So let's look at the sell-through rates here. 341 of the Pokemon Center ETB sold here when it was just dipping a little bit, and then 229 Pokemon Center ETBs, 109 PC ETBs, 73, 61. Note that these are, a lot scarcer than the regular ETBs, so it is weaning off a little bit as we reach this kind of price point. But let's look at the actual sell-through rates. 323, that's a low one, but you see they're selling for closer to $400. Now, what I think is happening here is everyone, this is also in my previous video, please watch. Everyone knows what happened with 151 PC ETBs, as well as the Destined Rivals PC ETBs, and Prismatic Evolution's PC ETBs. Let's take a look at here on what Destined Rivals PC ETBs have been doing. Look at that chart. You go to the 1 year chart, yeah, a lot of pre-sales were at ridiculous prices. But you'll see here, the first couple of weeks is when we reached the lowest price point for PC ETBs for Destined Rivals. Now, look at these volumes. 278 sold, 154, 54. Notice anything? These are a lot lower in volume compared to Ascended Heroes. I wouldn't say a lot, but Ascended Heroes PC ETB sales are definitely on the higher side. Now, let's look at kind of the Prismatic Evolutions sell-through rates here. Noting here that we can't, TCG Player still doesn't allow me to get a better look in terms of the entire history of the sell-through rates and everything, and it just shows you the 1 year, that's the maximum. Notice here though that 110, during these dips, 110, 137, dip here, 64. So the sell-through, the volume on the Ascended Heroes PC ETBs are something that I have not seen before. And now we're seeing that with the regular Elite Trainer boxes too. Like, look at these numbers: 588, 247, 300, 400. going back to the Ascended Heroes PC ETBs here, I do believe what's happening, as I mentioned, we've seen what happened with these PC ETBs, Destined Rivals and Prismatic, and people are kind of applying that. People are seeing what the PC ETBs can do for these specialty sets. Destined Rivals is not a specialty set, but even if it's not a specialty set, without a reprint, it just keeps climbing. Now it's at $438. Let's see the last sales here. $449, $464, $459, $459. So you get my point here. People know that PC ETBs here for Ascended Heroes, which is extremely high in demand, as we see with the regular Elite Trainer box volumes here. I've never seen anything like it. I don't think there's been a set where the ETB sell-through rates at the beginning were so crazy. Just the volume is insane. So people are applying that logic. That kind of shows the demand, in my opinion, for this set, and rightfully so, with the set having so many hits, so many SIRs, God pack potential, really high set value. People are already comparing the Ascended Heroes set to Prismatic Evolutions. Arguments of which set is better, which one will outperform the other, and I think there's definitely a case for Ascended Heroes challenging Prismatic Evolutions for that title there. And you know me, I'm a huge Prismatic Evolutions shiller. I love Prismatic Evolutions, I invested heavily into that set. So even I agreed that Ascended Heroes is on par, if not better, than Prismatic Evolutions. It's too early to tell. We'll see what happens, but early signs are showing. People think that Ascended Heroes is the next big thing. And kind of wanted to note here, this is a chart I used in my previous video. I'm going to link it as a card on the top right of the video, so please take a look if you are curious. But in it, I discussed when the Pokemon Center ETB for Destined Rivals and Prismatic Evolutions kind of reached its all-time low points. Destined Rivals here is in green, and Prismatic Evolutions PC ETB prices are in blue here. Now, you'll notice that, of course, Prismatic Evolutions, there's been dips. These are kind of like when the restocks happen, reprints happen, so to speak, from Pokemon Center themselves. And you'll see here, let's start off with Destined Rivals here. We reached a low point kind of in the first 50 days or so of the Destined Rivals PC ETBs coming out, and noting that maybe this was kind of lagged because, you also have the booster boxes for Destined Rivals. Booster boxes are historically seen as the better investment to go to for a set, but for a specialty set like Prismatic Evolutions here, you'll notice that the lowest points reached were towards the beginning, the very beginning of this, when the PC ETBs came out. Now, and it keeps climbing back up. You'll see the reprints and restocks from Pokemon Center here, but then you'll notice kind of like the low points here are very close to the low point of just around $200 for $214 for Prismatic Evolutions PC ETBs, and then only dipped down to $206 during reprints. So, and then look at what it's doing now. And the price here is $379. Now it's probably closer to here. I didn't really update this chart because I need to do some data scraping, but you get my point here. PC ETBs are a much scarcer product, and scarcity also means that people are just going to be attracted to it more as an investment. And we've seen that with Destined Rivals. We've seen that with PC ETBs for Prismatic Evolutions. We've also seen that for 151, Paldean Fates. List goes on. So I just wanted to make this video, I guess, because, I feel like we've already reached a low point for the Ascended Heroes PC ETBs here at around $240. And I think I'm getting more and more confident that I made the right choice in terms of investing really early on into these PC ETBs, despite the really high price. If you look here, Destined Rivals PC ETBs reached all the way down to $165. Prismatic Evolutions, $214 out the gate, $215. Ascended Heroes PC ETBs, Lowest point was $240. And I think people just know, the point that I want to make here is people investing into Pokemon products, sealed products, are already aware that these PC ETBs are going to do well. And I think this price is going to keep climbing. We'll see how that plays out. So I do think maybe we see a dip here as the sell-through rates are getting somewhat slower. But I also think that maybe you don't want to be too late on these. Look at what happened with Destined Rivals. Destined Rivals PC ETBs didn't have a restock. Look at what it does. Insane. Let's check the prices now. $438 in market price. This keeps climbing steadily. And another point that I want to make here is that the Destined Rivals PC ETB, because there wasn't a restock yet from Pokemon Center, it went, you're considering, let's say the lowest point was around 200, just to make the math easier. It's shot up more than twice in value. Now at this point, if there is a Pokemon Center restock, I don't know what's going to happen, but we know with the Prismatic PC ETBs here, the value does go down quite a bit, but then look at what it does afterward. So I do think going into Ascended Heroes ETBs now is actually still a great investment play to make. Yes, there's more risk because we've already hit this low point here, but I don't know. I just feel like these are just going to keep climbing. I don't know about you. And I also want to note that people are actually ripping these PC ETBs, especially on Whatnot, with streamers, because this is a website called GemRate. It's where I get to check the PSA gem rates as well as CGC, BGS, and so on. Very useful bit of information. This is the Zekrom promo from the regular Elite Trainer box. Pretty low gem rates, as well as, so if you a lot of streamers are trying to hit that low gem rate for a PSA 10. We know what's been happening with low gem rate PSA 10 cards, as seen with the Mega Evolution stamped Bulbasaur, the box topper, as well as the Paldea Evolved Magikarp, along with the Haunter from the Battle deck. So now let's look at the Zekrom from the PC ETB. There's a total of 12 graded. There's only 1 gem, so that's 8.3%. This is still early into the grading life of this card, but if you have 12 and you're only getting 1 PSA 10s with a low gem rate at 8.3%, we know that most of these PC stamped promos have very low gem rates. So I think a lot of people are making plays here too, and this early on into the set, and after the PC ETB release, we already have 12 graded, and I'm sure there's more coming. So this tells us 2 things. 1, people are actually ripping PC ETBs for grading plays here. And 2, the Zekrom PC stamp card will be highly desirable. So I do believe more and more people are going to actually rip the Ascended Heroes Pokemon Center Elite Trainer box in hopes of getting that 10. I know most people like you and me were more aware that if we're seeing these gem rates, chances are, even if we get the stamped promo out of the box, we're not going to hit that 10. But most people have the illusion that they will get a PSA 10 worthy copy. And, that's what I used to do when I was first really getting into Pokemon around 2.5 years ago. So this is something to note here. I think with people ripping for this grading play, the Ascended Heroes PC ETBs, I think the supply will dwindle down even further, and with high demand for that box already, we're going to see even more of an upwards pressure on the price. And going back to Ascended Heroes PC ETBs here, there is no mention of the Pokemon Company actually saying that they will be printing to demand as they did with Prismatic Evolutions. I think it's obvious that the Pokemon Company with their printing facilities are having some sort of issues. Perfect Order supplies are at an all-time low, abysmally low supply for that set, as well as Chaos Rising, we haven't seen a PC ETB pre-order release yet on the PokemonCenter.com. I think there are logistical issues that the company is facing, and maybe Ascended Heroes gets a reprint, but by that time, I do think the price will just run up to a point where it's irrecoverable back down to the 300s here. So if you can find, my advice here, my investing advice, is to find some local deals that you could get them for cheaper, a lot cheaper than for $375, maybe around the $330, $340 mark. Try to get a bundle deal to get some sort of discount. And yeah, I think that's the play here for these Ascended Heroes PC ETBs. I think this is the first time I'm kind of making a call here in terms of what these Ascended Heroes PC ETBs will do. I might be wrong, but I am very convinced that we've already reached the Ascended Heroes PC ETB price low points. So do with what you will with this information, but hope this data analytics was helpful. Make smart plays, don't go into debt to buy these PC ETBs for sure. This was brought to you by DataBoy TCG, and I'll see you in the next one.